Hi, I'm Ivy Larson with hotandhealthyliving.com. And it's almost Easter, so to me, Easter means it's time to start cooking lamb. And I'm going to show you a super simple roast shoulder lamb recipe that's adapted from my Whole Foods Diet cookbook. And we are going to make it super tasty with a pistachio parsley crust. Very easy to make. Now, what I'm using is grass-fed lamb. That is really, really important because you want to remember that lambs are supposed to eat grass. They're not supposed to eat the grain that a lot of farmers today feed them. And the reason the farmers feed the animals grain is because they're trying to get them fatter faster. But what happens is when those animals are fed a deviant diet of grain as opposed to their natural diet of grass, then the animals they do get fatter, and the fat that's in the animals, the saturated fat, is very pro-inflammatory, very bad for cardiovascular disease, puts you at risk for obviously increasing your risk of heart disease, but also exacerbates symptoms of conditions that are inflammatory mediated, such as MS and asthma and fibromyalgia. And in addition, the grain-fed lambs are also going to have a much higher ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fat, and that itself is very pro-inflammatory. And then in addition, the grain-fed cows or the grain-fed lambs are also going to have less antioxidants. So you really do want to go the extra mile and make a special effort to get grass-fed animals, and in this case, grass-fed lamb. If you can't find it at your butcher, and it is kind of difficult to locate, you can just order it online. I actually got this lamb shoulder from US Wellness Meats. You can go to uswellnessmeats.com, order it direct to your house. And when you do get the meat, you also still want to make sure that you trim as much visible fat as possible. And I'll show you up close in a second, but I take kitchen shears, which make snipping the saturated fat a snap, because the visible fat that you're seeing here is really a high concentration of saturated fat. So you do, for health purposes and weight loss purposes, you want to try to remove as much of this visible fat as possible. So I am going to get started snipping the fat. Okay, so I am already busy snipping off as much visible fat as I can. And one great thing about the grass-fed lamb is that it really does not have as much saturated fat or as much visible fat as you'll find in conventional lamb. And you also want to remember that because the composition of grass-fed lamb is different than conventional lamb, it's also going to cook differently. So grass-fed lamb actually cooks faster, and you can cook it at a slightly reduced temperature. Okay, so I have trimmed off as much visible fat as I possibly can see, as reasonably can see, and now I'm going to season it all over with some salt and some freshly ground black pepper. And then we are going to get started on our super yummy topping. Okay, so after you're done trimming the meat and seasoning it generously with salt and pepper, you're going to want to use a cast iron skillet, and then you're going to place some onion rounds into the skillet. Now what the onions are going to do is they're going to help pull any excess moisture from the meat, and that's going to help prevent the meat from burning. So we're going to place our lamb shoulder right into the skillet, right on top of the onions, like so. And now we are going to get started on our super yummy pistachio parsley crust. Now this is very easy to make, and what we're going to do is if you have a little mini Cuisinart or a food processor, you are going to start with 1 cup of shelled pistachios. These are lightly salted. They're going to go right in like that. Then we are going to use 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Do try to find a good quality extra virgin olive oil. I buy mine in bulk. I get Kirkland brand. It's from Costco, and it's Tuscan. Has a very fruity, rich flavor. Delicious. So we're going to use 3 tablespoons of the extra virgin olive oil. And then some garlic cloves. Now what you can do is just, the food processor is going to mince the garlic cloves for you, but you can just make it a little easier by kind of coarsely chopping them right up. You don't have to be exact with the garlic. You can do 3, 4, 5 cloves. Then we're going to add some lemon juice, and we're going to get this started before we add the panko crumbs and the parsley. So let's start to incorporate it. Kind of noisy. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to add whole wheat panko crumbs. And I get these by Ian's. They are found in the natural food section of your grocery store, Whole Foods markets and natural food stores, but also mainstream grocery stores. So we are going to add 1/2 cup of those right in there. My processor's getting pretty full. Blend this. And then we're going to do about 1/4 cup of the parsley, fresh parsley. And it's getting pretty tight in there, so we want to kind of jam-pack it in. And if you need a little more lemon juice, if it's getting too dry, then you can use a fresh lemon juice. Make sure you don't get any seeds in there. So I always put my lemon juice into a cup first, because I can tell it's getting a smidgen dry. Get that seed right out. Add this in, and give it another whirl. Perfect. Okay, and just to show you a close-up of the pistachio parsley crust. Now this is so versatile because you can actually use this crust on so many different things. You can put it on top of beans, on top of pasta. It's absolutely amazing with white beans and whole wheat pasta. Okay, but what we're going to do now is we're just going to top it and kind of press it right into the lamb all around, and it's okay if some of the crumbs fall to the side. And then I have preheated the oven to 400 degrees. We're going to cook the lamb for 20 minutes at 400 degrees, and then we're going to reduce the heat to 325 and cook it for about 10 to 12 minutes per pound. And we want to cook the lamb medium rare. You definitely do not want to overcook lamb. Time to put the lamb in the oven. Now remember, I've already preheated the oven to 400 degrees. So I'm going to place the lamb in the oven 400 degrees for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to reduce the heat to 325 and cook it for about 10 to 12 minutes per pound. But in addition, I am also going to simultaneously roast carrots. These are just baby carrots that I put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of salt. Put these right in with it, also in a cast iron skillet. And then I've done some cauliflower. And with the cauliflower, again, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And then I also did a little bit of Dijon mustard that I kind of spread around with my fingertips. And then I had some sun-dried tomatoes that were roasted in a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. And then I put the oil from that right in with the cauliflower. So we are going to roast all of this, all 3 dishes together, 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. Okay, so the lamb's been cooking now for 20 minutes, so we are going to, I'm just going to remove it just to show you briefly how nice it's looking. As you can see, the pistachio parsley crust is getting nice and brown on the top. And now what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the heat to 325, and we are then going to cook it for about 10 to 12 minutes per pound. And you want to make sure you keep your eye on it because you absolutely do not want to overcook lamb. Okay, so the pistachio parsley crusted lamb is done. Again, make sure you don't overcook it. The tenderest and juiciest meat is going to be medium rare. And then we have our ever so simple sides, the roasted carrots and the roasted cauliflower. And now we have a very healthy Whole Foods Easter dinner menu. If you want the full recipe for the pistachio parsley crusted lamb, you can visit hotandhealthyliving.com. And that's it. Happy Easter.